Previously on Pressing Issues. Wherever you are, and I'll see you all again soon on Monday after the race. Monday after the race. After the race. And now the conclusion. The Belgian Grand Prix and rain are pretty much synonymous. Maybe more so than the British Grand Prix and rain. Now, come to think of it, I might have seen more wet Belgian Grand Prix than British ones in my time watching Formula 1. There was 2 in a row in 1997 and 1998, and in 1998 we had that crash at the start. Which is quite funny when you think about it, because the 1997 race started behind the safety car in less torrential conditions. But in the aftermath of the Jules Bianchi incident, the FIA is understandably quite twitchy when it comes to wet weather driving. And while we have seen wet weather running across the last 18 months or so, like Turkey last year, Hungary and Imola this year and so on, when you have the conditions that were seen at Belgium, the only option is either to delay the race, run behind the safety car for a bit to push some of the water away, or just abandon it altogether. And abandon is what they did. It's the shortest race in terms of laps covered in F1 history, beating the previous record set by the 1991 Australian Grand Prix, which did 14 or 16 laps or so. And it's the first time half points have been awarded since the 2009 Malaysian Grand Prix. But it's the way they went about abandoning the race that has people annoyed. They did one lap behind the safety car and were then brought back into the pits, and with heavier rain on the way and a time limit in effect that started at 1400 BST and ended at 1700 BST, the sport was running against the clock to get something done. And like I say, with heavier rain on the way and now with it getting darker earlier, it was evident to anybody that any racing was not going to get done, and the debate started as to whether half points would in fact be awarded. The rule states that half points are awarded for Grand Prix that are red flagged before 75% race distance has been completed. No points are awarded should a race be suspended with no resumption with the leader completing fewer than 2 laps. They'd already completed 1. And there were people saying, just let them race, which after the previous day seemed... What? Norris crashed at the Eau Rouge Raidillon section of the track, which had already seen a pileup that weekend during the W Series race, and that was where 6 cars ended up crashing at the exact same spot, prompting knee-jerk reactions on Twitter that enough was enough and Eau Rouge needed changing. And it will change. They are modifying the tyre walls for 2022 so the bikes can return to the circuit. But when Norris crashed, it was, Vettel was right, why weren't the red flags called earlier? This is ridiculous. And some 24 hours later, let them race. It's one or the other, you can't have both. And yes, I've had a crack at the fans before and people accuse me of gatekeeping, being scared of change and being the very thing I'm complaining about, but I don't understand the reasoning behind this. It's too dangerous to drive on your own, but fine to drive as a pack in blinding spray. So where's the logic? I guess if you've paid to be there or are paying your sports channel subscription, you want your money's worth. And with most sports now behind a paywall, entertainment and improving the show are on the minds of not just those in Formula 1 but other sports like cricket, rugby, golf and football. If you've paid to see a race or a football match or a rugby game or a golf contest or whatever it may be, in your mind you should get a race or a football match or a golfing whatever. But on the other hand, if there is a massive accident, then the response will always be, how was this allowed to happen? Especially if it was Max, Lando, Charles or one of the other fan favourite drivers. And when the medical car went out later on in the afternoon, the message was, it's okay to drive but there'll be no visibility. And when the cars went around again, the radios were lit up by Hamilton as well as Alonso, Ricciardo, Vettel and others saying, I can't see. Verstappen, Russell and Hamilton all said it was too dangerous, even on the safety car lap. Verstappen said, the fans probably won't agree with what happened, but you have to think about safety in the end. When you can't see where you're going and can't see where the car ahead of you is, you can't race like that. Hamilton said he couldn't see Russell's car ahead of him and added that if a car had crashed like Lando's had the day before, there is no way they'd see that car until it was too late. Russell's response to the weather was, I might as well have been driving with my eyes closed because that's how it would have been at the start and it would have been chaos. And this was just behind the safety car, so at racing speeds they definitely won't see anything, and it would only take a Coulthard-esque losing of control to start a 15-car pile-up like at the same track 23 years ago. And when the cars can't keep heating their brakes and tyres and not enough air is passing over the car to generate downforce, the cars are undrivable, and no one wants to see them tiptoeing around in the rain because that's no more a race than just pottering around behind the safety car is. And people will be thinking, well, they're going back to ground effect next year, so that should solve the problem, right? Not necessarily, because you still need the air rushing through the Venturi tunnels at speed to generate the suckage that keeps the car stuck to the ground. But that second safety car lap did reek of they're just doing this to get the result and award half points, which has annoyed people even further. But still, the fans won't get a refund. Stefano Domenicali has stood firm to Hamilton's pressure to refund every single person who had a ticket for Sunday, or at least allow the 2022 race to be a free event to compensate the fans who had travelled, many of them from the Netherlands, just to see Max. The FIA said that the plan was to do everything possible to hold a race with no other considerations. Okay. Which leads into what the FIA could have actually done. Just hold it on a Monday was a popular response, which is what IndyCar or NASCAR would do, but in terms of the logistics for the teams, yes, that could have happened. It's only a 3.5 hour drive to Zandvoort, so it's not like they've got to go from Melbourne to Silverstone in a couple of days. The issue with this probably lies with television and marshalling. The marshals are volunteers, and while Monday the 30th of August, today, is a public holiday in the UK except for Scotland, in Belgium their last public holiday was Assumption Day on the 15th of August, and many of those marshals will be doing their day jobs. In the Netherlands, where you'd think a lot of the fans had travelled from, their last public holiday was the 24th of May, the day after Whitsun. Whatever that is. Then there's also the media, especially if those media personalities are freelance or have other commitments. So for Sky, maybe not an issue, but for the BBC, Channel 4 and so on, it would screw with their schedules. They'd have to pay the talent for the overtime and so on, book hotels, and, you know, big companies don't like spending money. You've also got to factor in all the other people like cameramen, sound guys, and everybody else you don't see on the television. Again, this is all assuming, but I'm trying to give you a picture as to why, and I'm in no way defending the decision to abandon the race. Michael Masi, the race director, said, "We were all aiming for a window we thought was there. There was a weather band where we thought we'd get some racing in, but you've all seen how rapidly the weather changes at this venue, and the weather deteriorated so rapidly that we couldn't." Hamilton then said, "I don't know the politics in the background, but my biggest concern is the fans probably should get their money back, and I don't know if us doing 2 laps means they won't, but we have better values than that as a sport." Now this could be down to support races like the W Series that ran the day before actually going ahead, and I think there were some Porsches that were running on the Sunday morning. Whether that's part of it, I'm not sure, as there are costs associated with that too, but that's for the FIA to explain. But as it was, the 2 laps were enough to hand out half points, and the response from drivers and teams alike was not good. Alonso said, "For some it was like an early Christmas present because there were gifts given today with some people. Because we didn't race and you get the positions and the points. It's a bit shocking." And remember, Alonso was one of the 2 drivers on the grid who was supposed to race at Indianapolis in 2005. Vettel, who was 5th, said, "We didn't have a race, so we should not have points." And he was one of the drivers who scored points. In my own opinion, maybe they should have classified the results so the records show that Max won the race with Russell's stats showing he got a podium, but not awarded points. Or just made the entire thing non-championship. And this is coming from a Williams fan, by the way. The only silver lining out of all this is that Russell got 9 points for second, but that podium is as hollow as you're ever going to get. It's like that esports race I won against all those pro drivers. The guy in the lead stacked it, I didn't earn the race result at all. You can't overtake at Zandvoort. The fans should get a refund, and most of the drivers agree that they should, but after the way the seating area on the Kemmel Straight was left following the event, that ticket money is probably being used to pay some poor to clean the whole thing up. Yes, I'm scraping the bottom of the barrel for stuff to talk about, and I'm aware that this stuff happens at things from festivals to sports events, but when people use "the fans were shafted, why should we bother to clean up after ourselves" as an excuse, littering does my head in. But anyway, Zandvoort next. Hamilton will be looking for win number 100, and in the process he might just piss off an entire nation. But at least we only have to wait until this Sunday for the next race. And I'd ask what you thought of the event, but I know where the comments will go on this, and I'm not calling it a race because it wasn't a race. It was an event, and even then that's stretching it a bit. Leave all your thoughts in the comments section and get a discussion going, because it is, after all, why this series exists. I have a moan, and you tell me what you think. And while scrolling down there, why not like the video if you think I've made some good points, and for more stuff like this, subscribe and get that bell on so you never miss out on a future video. Big thanks to the patrons of Patreon for their continued support, and if you want to join them or just join in the Discord chatter, I'll leave all the relevant links down in the description box for you. So until next time, I've been AdmiralLaWind, and I'll see you all soon for another video, or tonight as I'm presenting more esports. I'll leave a link to that as well down in the description if you want to watch that. So until the next time, or the show tonight, goodbye.